Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. I was thinking about all the promises politicians have made to us over the years and actually kept them all. We built a wonderful world. It was beautiful. Then I woke up. It was only a dream. Back to reality.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Well, this is very disturbing. There is certainly a disconnect between the requirement of the Constitution and what just happened. Does that mean Mr. Trump is not really the president? I am shocked at Justice John Roberts leaving out those critical words. Trump did not utter the words "and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States." Maybe that was intended, considering the controversy surrounding the ethics problems with some of the justices. The fact remains, however, that the most basic requirement to become president, specifically stipulated by the Constitution itself, was not accomplished. Therefore, he cannot be the president at this point, is still a civilian, and has no authority whatsoever to have made any changes to anything in the government. Nor do any of his designated department heads, who have not been approved by the Senate. Let us see what transpired at the last inaugural ceremony.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Interestingly enough, Trump's first inauguration was different. Listen closely at the difference back then. At that point, he actually placed his hand on the Bible. This time, he did not.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
So without satisfying this one requirement to become a sitting president, and not stating allegiance whatsoever to the Constitution, everything that has been implemented since the event is completely unlawful. This may be a constitutional crisis. Beginning immediately on January 20th, Trump issued some 80 executive orders that rescinded previous orders, or were new ones that had been recently composed. They were far-reaching and will affect all citizens in this country, even his ardent supporters. Upon closer scrutiny of this list, it is difficult to comprehend how much of what this indicates can help people. To the contrary, it appears many actually harm us. Here are some examples. Prior protections that were put in place have to do with an accurate apportionment based on the census and promoting access to voting. So we don't seem concerned with voting anymore.
To save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You don't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
The next segment of revoked previous executive orders dealt with ethics commitments by the executive branch personnel and nullifying the establishment and operation of a commission on the Supreme Court. Another instance of a lack of ethics. They also fell under the axe. So we must conclude that ethics within the executive and judicial branches is no longer important. Here, with this next batch, is where it is really going to harm the average citizen. The effort to lower prescription drug costs, rescinded. The effort to strengthen access to affordable health coverage, rescinded. The effort to strengthen Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, ACA, or what has been erroneously called Obamacare, rescinded. The 20th of January was a busy day for our not president. But then, Trump and his group has had 4 years to prepare for this time period with Project 2025. Trump immediately declared a national emergency at the border. Not because there is one necessarily, since crossings have been at their lowest as he entered the White House, but because by doing so opens up an entire suite of powers that a sitting president does not normally have. This is a trend, and it continually has the appearance of consolidating as much power as quickly as possible. Trump's number one tech guy Elon Musk, head of something called Doge, did something rather bizarre. At a celebration event, Musk seemed to salute the crowd in a very odd way. You be the judge as to what this means. On the 22nd of January, Trump ordered complete censorship of information. The so-called pause affects regulations, press releases, social media posts, website changes, and public health guidance. That includes publications like the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and other data releases. Additionally, the memo told health agency employees to have all documents and communications, including regulations, guidance, notices, social media, websites, and press releases, reviewed and approved by a presidential appointee before issuing them. It also directed employees not to participate in any public speaking engagements without approval, and to coordinate with presidential appointees before issuing official correspondence to members of Congress or governors. In other words, no information goes public unless approved. There is, therefore, absolutely no transparency to this government. But it gets worse. On Friday night, the 24th of January, just after Pete Hegseth had been approved by Congress as the new SecDef, a vote decided by the new VP because the House was evenly split, and based upon promises that the following would not occur, Trump illegally fired various inspector generals throughout the government. Inspector generals, or IGs as they are known, are independent investigators within various departments that produce reports concerning violations of rules, regulations, or laws governing that particular department. One of the two people briefed on the dismissal said the number is at least a dozen and includes inspectors general at the Departments of State, Agriculture, Interior, Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, Education, Labor and Defense, as well as the Small Business Administration, the Department of Energy, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Before we proceed, I want to make a few comments. I do not think we can trust what politicians say. We probably never could. Rather, pay attention to what they do. This is the true character of a person. Another comment is that no one is above the law, period, full stop. Don't care who you are. Because if some are and others are not, there is no law. The third comment is that people do not exist for the government. Rather, the government exists for the people. And we have an agreement as to how that government must function. It's called the Constitution of the United States. And no single individual, for whatever reason, has the authority to override or change it, as Trump has attempted, by declaring birthright citizenship no longer being acceptable by executive order. Based upon what has transpired, just within these past few days, I must ask the question. What does any of this have to do with improving the lives of the American people? We all know that the system is broken, but it is broken not because of any group of citizens or immigrants seeking a better life or political asylum, or a particular party, but rather because of the influence of big business involved in our government. I am sickened by the comments made about immigrants within our country as being vermin, a phrase frequently used by another individual as he took over Germany in the 1930s. My community has many individuals that may be undocumented, They may or may not be. I don't care. I have always found the absolute vast majority of them as being a polite, church-going, family-oriented, and hard-working group. They have always been in the country doing the menial jobs that other, so-called real Americans, would not do. Our real problem is that no one speaks the unspeakable, that the wealthy have prostituted the entire system by buying the influence of certain individuals embedded in key areas of the Supreme Court, the House and Senate, and even within the executive branch itself. They have been assisted by all of the major media except for a scant few individuals within a media that is owned and controlled by similar entities that have affected our institutions. Most of what we have been fed has been critically and purposely incomplete, leading to a condition whereby only the loudest and persistent lies get through to us. As a retired Army officer with 25 years of service, I have twice taken the oath to the Constitution of the United States. Because of that, I am also an independent voter, owing allegiance not to a political party, nor to any single individual, but rather to that document and what it stands for. It pains me to tell you this, but you must pay attention to what is happening. The individuals currently installed in our government only care about two things: power and money. What you are witnessing is a well-thought-out and long-planned quasi-military operation to seize absolute power and take as much money as possible and transfer it to the ultra-wealthy in the process. This is the golden age mentioned by Mr. Trump, not for you but for the wealthy and himself. Here is an observation that, if one is honest with themselves, is true. No one in modern history has created more chaos and division than the individual currently sitting in the White House. His enablers have been loudly beating the drum concerning serious problems at the border, even though solutions were offered and agreed upon. He ensured that agreement was nullified. This was all in preparation for one thing, so that he could immediately declare a national emergency and acquire additional power on day one. The next step was to shut down any communication out of the government concerning normal reports that protected us. Food contamination, drug recalls, bird flu outbreaks, COVID deaths, and on and on. Next was to get rid of an unknown number of independent inspector generals that are there to indicate waste, fraud, and abuse. At least 18 received an email on a late Friday night. My guess is that he will not fill those positions. Therefore, waste, fraud, and abuse can occur without being reported. The Department of State head, Marco Rubio, immediately ceased all international aid, cutting off our support for everything worldwide. There will be additional moves to completely control what you see, hear, and experience as his power continues to expand. This smacks of race purification and population control. The next phase will be to identify sources of money to essentially steal. An initial source will be a novel approach. Trump plans to use an economic tool known as tariffs. Although touted to help America regain some of the industries that have fled the country for access to dirt-cheap labor, the use of tariffs does one thing people do not understand. It creates what amounts to a tax which is collected as goods enter the country, paid for by the importer, and passed along to the consumer. The funds go directly to the government. By the way, Trump just essentially seized all foreign aid, grants, and loans, another source. He has toyed with the idea of abolishing the FDIC, a government protection for loss of your cash deposits, if a bank should fail. The government has the power to freeze your bank account. Do you think this man is not above taking it out of your account? With all the yes men placed as heads of all the executive branch departments, as non-functioning entities with no inspector generals to observe and report, all the funds that normally would go to those areas would also be up for grabs. The authority would be from the IRS for taxes, people under investigation, false information indicating criminal activity, or threats to national security, an historical method to accomplish an illegal act. A final point of no return is approaching, and it is the fault of those who currently hold power now in the House of Representatives. Study their faces and burn those images into your mind, because these people are about to take away your freedoms, your health care, your retirement, and your very lives if they so desire. The final solution for them is an attempt to give the wealthy more tax breaks, and it is to be funded by all the money devoted to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, as well as all other social safety net programs. This is what is currently being debated in the House and Senate. Welcome to Trump 2.0. We are not making America great again, we are making Americans grovel again. As I have been writing these very comments, Trump has suspended the online Medicaid billing portal. No authorizations for services can be approved, thus placing our people in serious medical jeopardy. Does this sound like he gives a damn about us? No, his only care is power and money. One other trait is also emerging, his vindictiveness. He has always had contempt for the military, denigrating their service and sacrifice. From calling them losers for dying to protect our way of life, saying John McCain was not a war hero because he was captured, to attempting to erase the contributions to the wars we have fought. In the most recent example, he directed the Air Force Academy to stop using certain training materials related to the Tuskegee Airmen and the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs. Both groups were instrumental in helping us achieve victory in World War II, the pilots in combat, and the WASPs in flying replacement aircraft to departure air bases for transport overseas. The criteria for erasing any diversity seems to be a race issue. We seem to have a mad dog foaming at the mouth in the White House instead of a commander-in-chief. It is a role which he has neither the appreciation of military history for or desire to execute properly, as he targets individuals and countries that he wants punished. Anyone who has said negative things or participated in any legal charge against him is being targeted. Again, individuals in the military are at risk. One in particular is General Mark Milley, whom he used as a prop to project the image of military involvement in the DC Church and Bible photo op. Milley went on to publicly announce that it was a mistake for him to have been there that day, since it gave the false impression of politicization of the military. This, of course, incensed Trump, and Milley decided to retire due, I am sure, to a very toxic work environment. But what happened next, as Milley bade farewell, has caused Trump to pull Milley's protection detail and have him reduced by 1 star, thus affecting his retirement income. Milley retired in September of 2023. He is a civilian military retiree, with certain benefits accrued because of his rank and service as stipulated by law. Ignoring the law is another pattern that Trump exhibits. In fact, the only laws that are continually cited and followed are those that give him power. Any law he doesn't like is ignored. This shows a severe lack of character, in my opinion. One can recognize true character. I give you Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, with a message that every armed forces individual needs to remember.
I'm deeply honored to have worn the cloth of this nation for 43.5 years, and I'm humbled to have served as the 20th Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But today is not about anyone up here on this stage. It's not about the President, the Secretary of Defense, me, CQ. It's not about us. It's about something much larger than all of us. It's about our democracy. It's about our republic. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Those values and ideas are contained within the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the moral North Star for all of us who have the privilege of wearing the cloth of our nation. It is that document that all of us in uniform swear to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who sacrificed themselves on the altar of freedom in the last 2.5 centuries of this country must not have done so in vain. The millions wounded in our nation's wars did not sacrifice their limbs and shed their blood to see this great experiment in democracy perish from this earth. No. We, the American people, we, the American military, must never turn our back on those that came before us. And we will never turn our back on the Constitution. That is our North Star. That is who we are, and that is why we fight. Thank you, and may God bless our military, and may God bless the United States of America.
Despite what has been implied by the new SecDef, we have always been warriors. We come from a long line of individuals that reach backward through time. Our mission has always been to defend our existence and protect our people. We have changed over the years from single-race composition to multi-race with a few missteps along the way, but seeing diversity as a true strength multiplier as we have faced more recent battles. Our country's motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one, is a core national principle from our nation's inception that reflects the contribution of that diversity to our successes. As but a few examples include the Tuskegee Airmen, a group of African-American pilots that originally were an experiment by the military to illustrate the group being incapable of performing at the level of white pilots. But that's not what happened. They excelled to a high level of success and were sought after by bomber pilots as protection on their bombing missions. Native Americans from the Navajo Nation, using their ancient language, acted as code talkers, communicating between units during World War II. The Japanese were unable to overcome the advantage it gave our troops, and we were again successful in battle. I ask everyone who has ever taken an oath to the Constitution, and in particular, every officer or warrant, whether active or reserve, National Guard or retired veteran, to remember that oath and recognize the ongoing attack on our country and a destruction of our way of life. Not from without, but from within. We all swore in one form or another that, I do solemnly swear or affirm, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Do not allow yourselves to become a pawn, to be used against our own people. Do not follow immoral or illegal orders, as we have been taught by history. In no other time, over the past 250 years, has your protection of this document and our people been needed more. This is our final test. If the unfolding carnage is allowed to continue, there will be no Constitution left to defend.